On the morning of Friday 27 January 1961, Irish Air Corps Dove 188 took off from Shannon Airport at 0437. The weather forecast as published in the Cork Examiner that morning read, "A trough of low pressure just west of Ireland is moving eastwards. Cloudy with outbreaks of rain or drizzle, heavy and prolonged for a time this afternoon. Brighter weather with scattered showers will move eastwards, reaching all areas early this evening. Winds will be southerly or southwesterly, moderate or fresh, but strong at times with gale gusts in exposed places, up moderating this evening with moderate temperatures." At 0605 that morning, tragically, Dove 188 crashed in the townland of Killula, Newmarket-on-Fergus, and 4 of the occupants, 2 Air Corps officers and 2 air traffic control staff were killed. This video is released today to mark the anniversary of the event and to preserve the memory of those who died. Geoffrey or Colm O'Donoghue, aged 19, Patrick Wall, aged 18, Lieutenant Donal Brady, aged 22, Lieutenant Brian Corr, aged 24. Captain James Liddy, aged 37, was the sole survivor of the crash. The ATC staff were on board for a familiarisation flight as part of their training. This video draws upon information as published in the national press and as recalled by now retired ATC staff Timmy Keane, Vincent Lane and Terry O'Donoghue. Copies of the newspapers have been incorporated so that you can stop the video and read the content yourself. Dove 188 was stationed at Shannon for a number of days and was operating in support of the Air Traffic Control Service by flying vectored circuits for controllers who are being trained on radar, otherwise known as GCA or ground controlled approaches. In those days, the tower controllers and assistants were located in the tower beside the terminal building. The present-day tower associated with the new runway 0624 had not yet been built. Area control, which was mainly procedural or non-radar, was provided from Wing 5 of the terminal building complex, and the GCA and PAR were located in the middle of the airfield near the intersection of runways 1432 and 0927. The PAR had a revolving top so that it could be aligned to numerous runways, enabling precision or talk-down approaches to be provided. Dove 188 took off at 0437, and as it was a quiet night with no other aircraft movements at the time, and as Dove 188 will be flying missed approaches or go-arounds from each approach, the flight was transferred to GCA and remained on their frequency throughout the next hour. Just before 0600, Dove 188 notified GCA that they wished to return to the airport for landing, as one of the passengers had become airsick. Dove 188 was flying an approach to runway 32, from which it would go around and self-position for a left-hand visual circuit to runway 23, and was transferred to tower control at 0601. In the tower that night were Paddy hÉireann as the tower controller and Terry O'Donoghue as the assistant. In the tower rest area was another assistant, Vincent Lane, who had attended secondary school and had been very friendly with Colm O'Donoghue and his family. Vincent was from Abbeyfield and Colm's father ran a furniture business in the town. The following information is extracted from the coroner's inquest, which was held the day after the crash. Paddy hÉireann, the tower controller, recalled that the aircraft requested a left circuit to runway 23, which I approved, and then seen the aircraft turning left after overshooting runway 32 and saw it turn downwind, and I then lost sight of the plane in the mist and the rain. The tower controller gave testimony that it was raining heavily, visibility was 7 miles, and there was a gale blowing. The tower controller expected the aircraft as instructed to report on left base. However, when it did not call me, I picked up my binoculars and began to scan the horizon. Terry O'Donoghue, as the tower assistant, recalled seeing a glow 2 to 3 miles from the tower near the approach pad for runway 23 and bringing it to the attention of the tower controller. Terry recalls that the glow shortly thereafter brightened and grew. Paddy hÉireann recalls that he rang the fire station and asked them could they see the glow, and that they could. They were looking at it but couldn't say what it was. Paddy recalled trying to contact the aircraft again but could not make contact, and called the GCA unit, but they couldn't see the aircraft on the scope. When he called the aircraft a second time, there was a flare-up of flames, and examining it, it was quite clear that there was a crash, and the alarm was sounded at 0607. John English, attached to Aer Lingus, recalled the crash alarm sounding and that he, along with Thomas Casey and 2 other men, ran to his car and drove in the direction of the crash, and was there in about 10 minutes. Mr. English continued that the plane was enveloped in flames, it was burning fiercely, and it was impossible to get near it. I saw no one there except Captain Liddy. He was about 10 to 15 feet from the wreckage and was in a dazed condition. He was bleeding profusely from the face, neck and hands. Mr. English shortly thereafter took Captain Liddy to Ennis Hospital in his own car. Garda Gahan, who was attached to Shannon Airport, was alerted to the event by the crash alarm and went with the fire brigade to the crash scene, which was about 5 miles by road from the airport, arriving there at about 0630, and recalled that the plane was burning furiously, and because of the intense heat there was nothing that could be done for the 4 people in the centre of the wreckage. It appeared that the aircraft struck the trees and there were several trees damaged. The impression he got was that the plane came down through the top of the grove. John Ruane, who was in charge of the fire crew, recalled receiving an alert at 0607 and that he and 6 other men moved out in 4 tenders and 1 ambulance, arriving at the scene at 0624. Mr. Ruan reported that on arrival he met Mr. English, who was assisting a survivor towards the road, and he recalled seeing 4 bodies in the burning plane. And like Garda Gahan, reported that there was nothing that could be done until the hose pipes were laid and the fire was extinguished, which took about 10 minutes. Dr. William Flynn, the airport medical officer, assisted by Nurse Ryan, having provided the first medical assistance to the sole survivor, later carried out a post-mortem on the 4 bodies, and in his opinion death was due to shock and extensive burns, consistent with an air disaster, which was registered by the coroner, Dr. O'Connor. Captain Liddy recovered and resumed his career in the Air Corps. However, in August 1970, Captain Liddy, whilst flying a biplane and conducting a dogfight scene for the movie Zeppelin, came into collision with a helicopter which was filming the scene, and Captain Liddy, along with 3 occupants of the helicopter, were all killed. Geoffrey or Colm O'Donoghue, aged 19, had joined the Air Traffic Control Service just 3 weeks before the crash and was from Kilmanahan West near Knocknagoshel. Colm had hoped to join the RAF as a pilot and had moved to England for a short time, returning to Ireland when he got the job in ATC. Patrick Wall, aged 18, had joined ATC 8 months beforehand and was from Dunseverick Road in Clontarf, Dublin. Patrick had hoped to become a pilot and since starting work in Shannon had taken flying lessons in Coonagh. Lieutenant Donal Brady, aged 22, was from Griffith Avenue in Dublin, had been commissioned 4 months previously, and his fiancée was Phyllis Thornton, who was an Aer Lingus employee. Lieutenant Brian Corr, aged 24, was originally from Cavan Town, had been commissioned 4 years previously and had married Mary O'Mahony from Cork the previous July and lived in Dunleary. The Roger Casement branch of Óglaigh Náisiúnta hÉireann, the organisation of national ex-service men and women, headed up by the then branch chairman Paddy O'Mara, must be praised for preserving the memory of this event amongst its members by, in 2011, hosting a memorial service and marking the crash scene with a cross. In 2022, the GOC of the Irish Air Corps, Brigadier General Rory O'Connor, unveiled a permanent grey granite memorial stone to permanently mark the crash site and remember those who lost their lives. In ATC, Paddy Wall to this day is still remembered by his friends and former colleagues, including Timmy Keane, who described him as the original plane spotter. Colm O'Donoghue was sorely missed by his old school friend and colleague Vincent Lane, who helped set him up in digs alongside him in Mallow Street in Limerick when he started work in Shannon. And Vincent still becomes upset when he recalls, as a friend of Colm's, being asked to ring Colm's mother to tell her of the accident and his death. No further information of this event or the cause of the crash is publicly published. Was the accident as a result of a microburst downdraft or wind shear, or was it as a result of disorientation and losing visual contact with the ground in poor weather while Dove 188 was flying low level on a base leg? Whatever the cause, 4 young men, Geoffrey, Colm O'Donoghue, Patrick Wall, Lieutenant Donal Brady and Lieutenant Brian Corr, lost their lives that morning in a grove of trees in Killula, Newmarket-on-Fergus. May they all rest in peace.